so turn off your cell phones. Appreciate that. This is a joint meeting of the Board of Supervisors of Poinciana CDD and Poinciana West CDD. It's 1 o'clock on December 13th, and we're in the Starlight Ballroom on Village Drive. First item is a call to order for the Poinciana CDD. Bob Zimbardi is present.
David Lane, present.
Lee Epstein, present.
Skip Stalfox, present.
We have a quorum.
Okay, the call to order for the Poinciana West CDD. Supervisor Brown is absent. Supervisor Medefka.
Present.
Supervisor Rosenberg.
Present.
Supervisor Bento is absent. Supervisor Case is here. We do have a quorum. Would you all please rise for the pledge of allegiance to the flag?
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item on our agenda is audience comments. I'll open the floor for audience comments regarding items on the agenda. Please come forward to the podium.
My name is Brenda Taylor. I live at 213 Da Vinci Pass. On behalf of myself and William Mann, who could not be here today, we object to the special assessments. They are not fairly and reasonably apportioned based on the benefits received by the assessed properties. AV Homes in the districts reformatted the transaction, but it remains substantively the same. Residents will pay assessments of different amounts based on the club fee scheme. It is arbitrary and capricious to impose assessments based on the club fee scheme. AV Homes is continuing to improperly influence this process.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor.
Can't hear, ma'am.
Yes, okay. My name is Beverly Geis, 614 Via Corso Court. I'm new here from the last year. A few comments. When we were considering buying, we were told that there would be 3 restaurants, including Mosaics, which was not full-time, but would be. That there was going to be a tower bar, a wellness center, including a snack bar, an 800-seat performing arts center, beginning construction this past fall. I understand that there are differences of opinion, that the homeowners believe that we're being charged too much. I believe it's overcrowded already. We was unable to make a reservation for next December for half the ballroom for any day in December. I think a lot of us signed the paper saying that we would like to see the development go ahead without having all the information and knowing that the Homeowners Association believed that we were overpaid for these amenities. Thank you.
Thank you. Hank Barron, 14 year resident.
Speak up. Stick the mic and park it out.
Oh, okay. Thank you, I'm an amateur at this. My question, sorry, I didn't catch your name. Hank Barron. My question is directed to Mr. Michael Eckert, the council. Some time ago, the ruling by the court was that there was a discrepancy between the $85 and the $65, and that was ruled in the favor of the CDD and therefore we homeowners. It was brought up at the last meeting that AV Homes proposed to pay that down, called the buy down or whatever, and it seemed to be done without approval or a motion or any conversation by the board or the prevailing party on that. I'd like to know how and why that could be done. It's against all legal precedents.
Members of the board, when we get a little bit further on in the agenda, I may have some comments that address that, but again, this is a public comment period. The public has the opportunity to provide comments. The board should take those comments under advisement as we move through the agenda items.
Thank you. We were under the impression that we in the audience could ask questions or comments during this period, and there's no response or answer to my question. I don't understand that, and some others don't understand it either. Thank you.
First of all, you may have a follow-up. Understand that it's always been an audience comment period. It's never been, you have a right to ask a question. First of all. Second of all, okay, then I think I'm done with that conversation then, members of the board.
And I think he said he was going to address that later in the meeting, too, after the comment section. Okay?
Monic Master, 759 Sandra.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch it. Catch your name?
Monic Master. I don't know if you guys have seen this, everybody was handed one when they came in. Should I assume that everybody on the board has seen this as well? Okay. I'm just trying to understand, are the numbers accurate?
Can't comment on that.
I'm asking you if the numbers are accurate, that's all I'm asking.
Sir, what I would recommend is if you want to make a comment, make a
I
comment.
mean, I'm trying to make a comment, but it is contingent on whether you believe these numbers are accurate. If you don't, I don't have any question to ask you or any comment to make. So I'm just asking, are these numbers accurate? Have you seen it?
I've not seen it. I didn't nod my head that I looked at that and studied
Okay,
it.
maybe you guys come through a different door, I don't know. But, so my comment is, there's a line that says costs for new bond issuance. Maybe you're the one who can address that later. It says it's $11.42 million. That seems to make no sense. How could the cost of this bond issuance be over $11 million? So, if you could enlighten us all, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Can everybody hear me? Yes, my name is Dr. Velasquez. Everybody calls me Dr. V. I just want to tell all the members over here on the board that this is completely unacceptable, completely unprofessional from the government with the CDDs. When we moved here, we were told that the CDDs were supposed to be for 20 years. Correct? That's what we were all told about it. So that should have been ended in the year 2020. So my question to you is, if when we moved here, we only had a couple of years of CDDs, why all of a sudden new CDDs? Question number two, if you want to do any kind of increase to us, the homeowners that have been here, and previous to us moving here, we've been paying. If you want to increase CDDs, do it to the new homeowners that are going to come here. But we shouldn't be penalized for new activities, new CDDs. We have paid our dues. I'm supposed to end in 2020. So correct me if I'm mistaken. That's what I was told. Question number two. If you decide to go against what I'm proposing, and the majority of us homeowners that have been living here, increase it to the new ones. You're making millions of those new properties, go charge them. Don't charge us, okay? Now, question number two for you. If you're going to still go and increase the CDD, it is too high. I just want to raise up and ask, anybody here who thinks the CDD rising price is too high? Who thinks it's too high? Raise your hands. So we speak here, okay? This is Solivita. So please be kind enough to the government, to the institutions, to anybody. You have to protect us homeowners who are paid the money for UB homes. We're making millions out of us. So, conclusion, you want to raise CDDs, do it to the new ones that are coming in. All those lands that you guys are being built. Leave us alone. And two, if you're going to increase, it's too high. So, I end my, thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, there being none, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Approval of minutes of the November 15, 2017 joint board meeting. For the Poinciana CDD, we've all received a copy of the minutes. Are there any changes, corrections, or deletions? There being none, can I have a motion to accept or approve the minutes of the November 15, 2017 joint board meeting?
So moved.
Have a second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
For the Poinciana West CDD, approval of the minutes of November 15, 2017 joint meeting. You've all received a copy. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes? If not, may I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the
Here,
minutes?
second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carried.
Okay, next item on the agenda is consideration of district engineering RFQ responses. I think the board, for the CDD board, is it okay to defer this to the January meeting?
Yeah, that's going to be my recommendation, so we can get a scoring matrix that you guys have in advance, so you can kind of collect your individual thoughts, and then you'll do the scoring collectively, each separate district will.
That's okay to defer that? Do we need any kind of a motion to defer?
No, I think staff will take it under advisement, and Bob should put that on the agenda for the January.
And concurrence from Poinciana West about deferring engineering.
Okay, next item on the agenda is a discussion of the status of the bond validation.
Yeah, just to update the board and the members of the public on the status of the bond validation. There's actually, first of all, let's talk about what the bond validation doesn't involve, and that's the class action that's been filed by a few residents. The district's not a party to that, but we are waiting to see what decisions are made by the court there and how that might impact what the districts do. In terms of the bond validation, if you recall, the district prevailed at the trial court on 4 of the 5 issues that were before the trial court. The only thing the trial court had a concern with was the way the methodology broke down the assessments in relation to the making sure that people didn't pay more than what they were paying now. And the court had a concern with the structure of that. And we've changed that structure, which is what's going to be before you here today. But so anyway, after that judgment came out, the residents who filed the opposition against the district then filed an appeal to the Florida Supreme Court. So even though our bonds weren't validated, the other side appealed to the Supreme Court. That briefing schedule is should be over around Christmas, and the briefing should be complete at that point in time. Once it's done, then we'll go ahead and provide a binder to all the supervisors that have all the different briefs in it, so you can kind of read through those at your leisure. And we hope to have a decision from the Supreme Court sometime during the first quarter. It is an expedited proceeding, so they should hopefully act fairly quickly on that. The board also authorized us to file a new validation case based on a new methodology, which the methodology is, from the board's perspective, every unit is assessed exactly the same. That's a methodology that certainly the Poinciana West boards have used before in relation to pond banks. That's a per unit basis, and that's the methodology that's before this board. In terms of the legality of you going through this assessment process right now and in the way that you're doing it, my firm has to sign an opinion at the end of the day that what you did through the assessment process is lawful and done in the right way. And so I would just assure the board that when we get through this process, it will be lawful in terms of the way we do our assessments, and I would take a little bit of offense at somebody saying that what we're proposing here is unlawful. So you will have that assurance, as well as the court signing off on it at the end of the day. In terms of the second bond validation case, we have a status conference scheduled for December 22nd on that case, and at that time, we hope to go ahead and get a notice in order to show cause hearing set, because this is a different methodology than what we did before, and it is designed to alleviate the concern that the trial judge had before by treating everybody equally. There is a document that was referenced that AV Homes was going to be recording in the property records, which is basically a private document between AV Homes and certain residents in terms of the pay down of assessments. That's not something the district is included in our assessment proceedings. And quite frankly, any private person can pay off their own assessment or a portion of somebody else's if they want to under Florida law. So at this point in time, I'm entirely comfortable with the approach we're taking on the assessments and do not have the concerns about them being objectionable to the judge a second time when we go in and say everybody's getting assessed exactly the same way. In terms of the cost of the bond issue, there are estimates that are out there right now, but I think in your assessment methodology, there's costs that are set forth in the methodology that are assumptions that you have to include. Certainly bond costs include the cost of issuance. They include your debt service reserve fund, which is basically money the bondholders loan you to be put aside so that if there's ever a bond default, there's money to pay that default while you work through those issues. Cost of issuance also include any capitalized interest that you put into the account. So there are significant amounts that are included in that, and that should all be set forth in your assessment methodology. And I think they were highlighted also in your bond validation report that you saw some time ago. Beyond that, in terms of 20 years, that CDDs would not last more than 20 years, I will tell you I'm not aware of those conversations, but that the bonds that were issued when certainly Point Siena West were 30-year bonds. And I believe the Point Siena ones, somebody would know better than I were, that they exceeded 20 years as well. So the CDDs will exist in perpetuity until such time as they no longer have any infrastructure to maintain or debt outstanding. And certainly we would anticipate the CDDs would exist in perpetuity regardless of what you do with the recreation, because you have the stormwater management system you're responsible for maintaining. So that's kind of the update on the bond validation case. We have two of them going, one's an appeal and the other one we're trying to get a trial date.
Michael, I do have a question, okay? First of all, the validation process, the way it's been structured, is anybody's debt service rates in this community going to go up?
Well, currently there are no debt service assessments for recreation amenities.
Right.
If the current way that it is structured in total is that people's debt, what they pay for club membership fees would not go higher than what they would have to pay for CDD debt assessments, but that's taking into account the private document that's been filed by AV to pay down certain people's homes. But again, that is outside of the CDD. That's something they're doing privately.
And I just have another question about the CDD bonds for the pond maintenance. They were 30-year bonds. They were refinanced, if I remember correctly, recently, and the actual rates went down per year. Is that correct?
That is correct. Both districts over the last 5 years have been able to refinance their bonds at a significant savings.
Okay. To all residents, correct?
That's correct.
Any more discussion on validations by the board? No? Moving on, next item is public hearing relative to the imposition of debt service assessments. So at this point, open the floor.
Yeah, if you want, Mr. Chairman, I can kind of walk us through this whole process on this agenda item, if that's okay.
And we'll entertain audience.
Yeah, there'll be a period for audience comments on it as well.
At this point in time, I just asked Bob Conkar, and my office has already conferred with his office, but just to state on the record that the mailed and published notices of the public hearing were mailed and published as required by chapters 170, 190, and 197.
Yes, that's correct.
At this point in time, I would ask the Poinciana Board for a motion to open the public hearing relative to the imposition of amenity debt assessments.
Okay, motion to open public hearing, the Poinciana CDD. Whatever he said.
Amenity debt
You should
assessment.
make the motion.
Yeah, I did. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
And ask for a similar motion from the Poinciana West Board.
Do I have a motion from the Poinciana West Board to open the public hearing relative to the imposition of debt service assignment assessments?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
At this point in time, I ask that your district engineer present the engineer's report. You have that in your agenda package. The only change that I'm aware of that was of any substance from the last meeting is, if you recall, there was a question in terms of the Performing Arts Center real estate being included in the report, and there was one diagram where it was shown as excluded. That's been corrected. But beyond that, that's the only change I'm aware of. But I turned it over to Michael at this point.
That is correct. The only major change was the exhibit, and then we did change the date of the report to coincide with today's hearing. Other than that, there's been no changes.
Well, I do have a question regarding Michael, that I just picked up on it last time I went through, and that's on the very first page, 2-1 development description. Number one is the number of residential units. This number fluctuates around, you have 5589. I remember a different number, and you also mentioned an 18-hole golf course. There are actually 2 18-hole golf courses.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure which page you're looking at, so.
2-1.
Yeah.
Bottom of the second paragraph. Don't know where your residential unit count came from.
I thought all the budgets were done on 5595.
Yes, that's my
There's 6
recollection.
missing. Yeah.
And we do have 2 golf courses.
I know that the number of residential units is tied to the sale of assets number, so I'll have to investigate why there's a difference between those two numbers.
We've gone over this issue a lot. I mean, it should match what's in the assessment methodology number, which was the 5595, I believe, and then there's the 3 that are.
Right, but I'm not sure where the breakdown difference is, so we'll have to go and investigate that, I guess.
Yes, yeah, we can go ahead and make sure that we correct the 5595, and then the board can approve it subject to him adjusting the phasing to properly reflect that. But that has no bearing on, phasing has no bearing on the total amount of assessments per unit or anything of that nature.
Correct.
We'll also capture the golf course.
Okay, and can you just point out where that plat is of that, of the land for the? I must have missed it. Page 2 again, I looked pretty quick. No. Yeah. The last one. No, there she is.
I think if you go after page 178, there's a couple of surveys that go beyond that, and it starts looking at the site where the Performing Arts Center is going to be. I think one of those surveys showed that it was going to be excluded, and that was, of course, never the intent, and that was something you guys corrected in your purchase and sale agreement amendments. So it's really just one of those surveys, and I'm looking at the 3rd or 4th page.
The page numbers are listed on the upper left-hand corner. You'll see agenda page numbers.
Yes.
And the new plat is agenda page number 179 through,
Which one is specifically the one that was in question?
so it is this entire
The
plat.
entire?
Yes, all the way, so 179 all the way through
Okay.
to the end of this plat, which is, I think, it's a page 7, which I'm trying to match the page 7, which is agenda page 185. Now, the specific revision, if you look at agenda page number 183, which is the Miser Consulting page number 5, where the future performing arts building is going to be located. Let me know when you're at agenda page 183.
Yeah.
Yep. So that, where it is going to be located, it used to have a notation that it was not included as part of the sale, and so that's what was corrected on the plat. And the reason why you see multiple sheets is because the multiple sheets are the entire plat, so the whole thing had to be replaced.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions on the engineer's report?
Board members, Poinciana CDD, okay with that?
Poinciana West Board members, do you have any questions for your engineer?
No?
I do. I have a couple questions. And Michael, based on your professional experience, are the cost estimates in your engineer's report reasonable and proper?
Yes, they are.
And are you aware of any reason to believe that the amenity project cannot be carried out by the district?
No, not aware. Thank you.
Okay. At this point in time, we're moving on to presentation of the final master assessment methodology. I'd ask Kevin Flensler from Fishman and Associates to come to the podium and present the master assessment methodology report that's in your agenda package. There's been no changes since your agenda has gone out.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Kevin Flensler, Fishkind and Associates, Orlando, Florida. I'm here today presenting the master assessment. I'm here,
You have to speak louder or closer?
pardon me. I'm here today to present the master assessment methodology report associated with the recreational facilities acquisition. There's been no substantive changes to this document as previously provided to you as of a couple of months ago. As you can see, Table 1 outlines the recreational facilities costs, and Table 3 shows the estimated par amount of debt associated with the recreational facilities acquisition, which totals $95,520,000. Table 4 highlights the 5595 units within Poinciana and Poinciana West, subject to assessments associated with the acquisition. As Table 4 outlines, per unit assessments will not exceed $17,072.39 in principal and $1,018.18 annually. We've analyzed the bond debt service assessments contained in the report on both an acreage and per unit basis and find assessments to be reasonably
Slow
allocated.
down, slow down.
Oh, sorry.
Slow down. Slow down.
Pardon me, sorry.
Okay. Speak a little slower.
Sorry. We've analyzed the bond debt service assessments contained in the master assessment report on both an acreage and per unit basis and find the assessments to be reasonably allocated. We've also found that a special benefit is received by using the district's properties and owners associated with the recreational facilities acquisition. As I said, there's been no substantive change to the documents provided, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Yeah, I have one question so far. Agenda page 227.
Okay, I don't have the agenda, I just have my
Okay,
document.
it's
Sorry.
section 3.1, the assessment foundation,
Okay.
and it's item number 12. You use the term Solivita grant. I think that should be a more general term, whatever that future development may be, but I think the name has changed several times. And to put that into assessment methodology, I don't think is proper. So I'm not sure what the right term should be, but the passes are not necessarily for Solivita grant, they are for another.
Okay, I'll be happy to adjust the language per direction from the board as to what that name should be in the future, and we can address that in the supplemental.
I don't
Well, I think we can just say it now, because I think we addressed this in the contract amendment at some point in time when we talked about it. And I think rather than refer to it as Solivita Grand, you could refer to it as the other proposed community, I believe that's adjacent to this district, but located in Osceola County primarily. So we could describe it in that way if the board wanted to describe it a different way.
Does A.B. Holmes have any recommendation on the proper terminology or a general term?
Again, the term was one that was used for some of our original approvals, for the first phases. But some people took offense to the name being Grand. So hence, from this point on, I know internally we're calling it Solivita North, if that works. Because it is on the north part of Cypress Parkway. So that's,
Okay, all right.
so if you use that, I'm fine with that term.
Okay, okay. Board members are all right with that term?
Yes.
So that change will be made and included within your motion to adopt the resolution, and we'll incorporate that change as well as the change you've asked the engineer to make.
I have a question on table 3. If this is a question that was brought up from the audience. Is table 3 is on page 5, agenda page 225. And that has to do with the actual bond issue of the $95,520,000. 84,085,543 is the construction. 84,085,543 is the construction of the new facilities plus the purchase of the existing facilities. And then I added up all the other charges in between that and the 95, and subtracting the difference is 11,564,457. And there's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 line items. Can you explain the line items so people understand how this 11 million is arrived at?
Yeah, these are standard transactional costs when it comes to an issuance, as your district councils explained. You have capitalized interest, you have debt service reserve, you have cost of issuance, you have other transactional costs with respect to underwriters' fees, and then you also have an original issuer's discount associated with a bond transaction. These are all very standard transactional components of a bond issuance.
What is that net OID?
Yeah, what's net OID?
The net OID is a original issuer's discount that the underwriters use with respect to the calculation of the sizing of bonds. So, I'm not an underwriter, so I'd be well out over my skis in terms of specifically dictating exactly what each one of those is.
What is the underwriter's discount in the OID?
Yeah, I can, I'll help Kevin out a little bit here. The underwriter's discount is the underwriter's fee. Okay, it's called a discount, but it's their fee.
Yeah, I love the term discounts, and it's an added.
Understood. And so,
Very clever.
well, I'm calling it a fee.
Okay.
So, and then the original issue discount, you don't see that in all deals, and we don't know if we'll have that in this deal yet, but it's essentially a discount in order to get the bond sold. We don't know what the bond market's going to be like when we get there, and so including that assumption in here now is probably the most conservative thing to do, and then if we don't need it, then of course, if it wasn't advantageous to us, we wouldn't do that, but it's just something in here to make sure that we can actually market the bonds that we're proposing here today. So
That's an unknown number.
what you have before you is an estimate. You will not know whether or not you will have a discount until you actually go to market, which could be 6 months or 6 years.
And capitalized interest is a maximum number?
Yeah, capitalized interest it's a maximum number for right now, and essentially capitalized
For right
interest.
now,
No, it's what our guess is right now. The maximum could be, we're not going to do more than that. We would do less. The reason that you have some capitalized interest in there is simply because the timing of when we actually issue our bonds versus the timing of when we'll start getting in assessment revenue. And so we want to provide for a period of time where we don't have to pay interest on the bonds until we get the assessment revenue in. And again, that's a conservative number. That may go down as we get closer to a bond issue. But certainly, if you miss going on the tax roll and you don't want to send monthly bills to people, you would do more capitalized interest.
And cost of issuance. Where's that going?
Cost of issuance would be your bond counsel fees. It would be some of your, the bond financing team funding agreement is probably included within there, which is all your litigation costs and things like that. You would also have, DTC is probably going to have some fees in there. Your trustee is going to have some fees. District council fees. You're going to have manager certifications that need to be done. But I think at least half of that is probably all the due diligence that's necessary to even get to that point of the bond transaction. So I think that was included in that number.
Kevin, would you explain the OID again, net OID?
Yeah, like as the net OID is ultimately the fact that the underwriter has to price in the ability to take these bonds to market. And so they're basically trying to assume a worst case scenario of trying to figure out how they're going to, when and if they bring these bonds to market, there's enough headroom in there for taking them to make it a reality.
So it may not be that number?
Absolutely, it could be less. As we indicated, these would be the maximum numbers. I mean, they're not going to go higher.
My request, I'd like to know, we understand what the cost is. My question is, who gets the money? What firm gets the money? Who gets the money?
Well,
Which money?
Oh, I did.
no, there's no money. It's basically, let's say that the bond market is such that you have to sell the bonds for, you get 99 cents and you give them $1 worth of bonds.
Okay.
Okay, I mean, those types of things, we try to build in some flexibility if the bond market is volatile. And I will tell you that you're gonna take a little bit of a hit at this district in terms of interest rates, given what's transpired over the last couple of years. So, having that flexibility in there, but if you're able to sell bonds, you give me $1, I give you $1 worth of bonds, and that number should